Hello and welcome back to the podcast. So today we've got Luke. Luke, how's it going, man?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on the show, John David. Appreciate it.
So I think it's just going to be two man buns because Al is calling in from his car and we're having some audio issues on his end. But so on the back end, we've got Abe, who is also a fellow veteran. And so I'm sure you guys can have some war stories to share. But I figured for this episode, you and I are just going to, for those of you guys who are tuning in, this is the first time, like Luke literally just dialed into StreamYard and we've talked for a minute before we hit live.
I got my prep and then I was like, let's go.
Right. So me and Luke are going to talk about his transition from being, so am I calling you the right title when I say Submariner, or is that just like a silly, okay. So you transitioned.
Submariner.
Submariner.
I don't know. Actually, Submariner. I don't know.
Having an identity crisis. All right, so I'm going to talk with Aquaman about his transition from the veteran space to data analytics. Then we are going to be premiering the first promo video for our learning platform marketing analytics course. And what I'm experimenting there with is I want to break up these episodes because I'm struggling to keep up with all of these comments. So while those commercials are playing, start asking questions, and then we're going to go from that commercial to the Q&A segment. Just because, we're getting 150 questions per live stream, and I just cannot keep up with all of it. Yeah. So I'm trying to get a little bit more organized with it. And then we're going to round out the episode with Abe and Hunter have put together a Discord challenge. So Hunter found a data source, and they are going to be facilitating a free community event around building your analytics skills. And I know Hunter has been focusing on Tableau, and Abe has a new role where he's learning Power BI. So there may be kind of a cross.
Ooh, we're gonna have a little gang fight. I like it.
Yeah. So, all right. How did you even find out about analytics? Like, did you stumble into this, or did you do your research?
Yeah, a little bit of stumbling into it, and so I was transitioning out of the military, and I didn't really know, as a lot of veterans could probably attest to, you don't really know what you want to do or what's out there and what's available. I remembered I went to undergrad before the military. Majored in mechanical engineering, was in the Navy for 7 years, and then went to get my MBA to get a little bit more background or to get more schooling to understand what I wanted to do. But to answer your question, while I was in there was this one course on Excel, basically like a power user of Excel course. And excellent professor. He had his own book for the course itself, and it just really opened my eyes to the power of what can be done with analytics. And he did such a good job at actually connecting the use of Excel to real life examples. And it really just lit a spark to fire right inside of me. And I just it was from that class that I was just okay, I got to take more classes, got to do more training as much as possible to get into this, understand more about this data science and data analytics field.
Okay. I feel like I'm a kindred spirit with that professor. So I'm just rounding out the first year of teaching. I taught at High Point University in Greensboro College. Mm-hmm. And in both of those classes, my podcast, YouTube, and social media data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the students got to work instead of just saying, all right, here's a textbook, here's how marketing analytics works. It's all right, well, here's a budget of $300. I'm going to break it into two teams. Each of you get $150. Whoever wins gets bragging rights. So it's it's gamified. Right. These are relatively low stakes.
Yes.
And what's interesting is this second year, I'm actually going to be incorporating my learning platform. So I just signed my deal with my marketing agency, and I think we're going to just have everything open. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have all of our sales data, all of our feedback data, just because I think that what's going on is there's not enough real data out there. It's all this stuff cooked up. Mm-hmm. So I feel like you're giving me some validation of like, all right, this is a good idea.
No, I like that, and I like that aspect of. I think just everybody should build their social media presence and start getting that out there. One, it's good for your portfolio. It's good for recruiting. It's good for just getting your name out there. And so I like that aspect of, one, you're using the analytics, and two, you're using that social media platform, because that is such a valuable skill that people need to be working on to promote themselves to other people and actually understand what data they should be looking at, what's important to better showcase what their skills are.
Well, also too, I think that something that is just not underrepresented in traditional academia is personal branding.
Yes. Yeah.
Like they don't.
It's B2B. At least from my experience, not trash talking. It was mostly business to business. It was about, hey, how can you make the business look good? What can you do for this business scenario? There were resources for you at least in my school, for resources for building your like resume and stuff like that. But exactly like you said, no, I don't think it's not built for that.
Well, what's interesting that we did to kind of, so season 2 of the How to Get Analytics podcast was, I taught the capstone class at Greensboro College, where I partnered the students with one of my my Silvertone Analytics clientele. So they were working with, one group worked with the president of a fairly large organization, the other one worked with the CFO, and they worked on like actual problems for the business. And then that was on Monday, and then on Wednesday we had an analytics expert come in and talk to the students. So guess who the first analytics expert was?
Who was?
It was Albert Bellamy.
Oh, nice, yes.
Which funny, because you can see him like working through his own imposter syndrome, because he's like, people are coming to me for advice. Yeah. But what I had done the prior month or two before the semester started, I'm giving him the credit of, he's the first super fan. So he was like, hey, I'm bought in. I want to see this podcast succeed. Right. So I was like, really? Well, do you want to take over our LinkedIn webpage? And within 1 month, he doubled the subscriber growth. I think within 2 months, he had like already tripled it. So what he did was, the first lecture from that season was he did an hour and a half presentation of all the theories and all the things that he found by tripling the size of that LinkedIn page. It's fun.
That's too interesting. So he actually had real world examples of how he promoted growth, and hopefully like data points like, I did this and potentially it led to this kind of growth. That's interesting.
Okay, so this is a very self-interested question. What are you doing on YouTube? Because you are blowing up right now. You got like what? You've got like 500,000 views over the last month, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that like you have become your own brand. It's awesome.
Yeah, and really, I mean, I made a video about I made a video a little bit about it, but yeah, no, at the beginning of the year, I was less than like 1,000 subscribers, and yeah, it just blew up. I have a real passion for data science and data analytics, but I'm not gonna lie, I have more of a passion for filmmaking and like doing creative things with like making videos. So I'd like to attest my recent growth with the sort of the ingenuity and what I put into the videos itself, and making sure like whenever I make a video, like I'm not filming it in a day, right? I'm not being like, okay, there's the topic, I'm gonna film it, I'm gonna edit it, and then we'll put it out in a day. It's like it's sometimes a week to 2 week long process of going from script to then shooting, maybe back to the script, shooting again, and then even more time in the editing phase. So yeah.
Yeah, your videos are super crisp. And also too, like I like, now that I'm in this space, like I can notice that you're using, in the background, you've got blue and orange kind of like mood lighting. And I mean, it's just like one's coming from the bottom, one's coming from the top. I mean, it's like there's a lot more that goes into it. Like once you start piecing it apart. But I mean, it kind of goes back to that point of like, you are actively building not only your personal brand, but your knowledge of how to build that.
Right. And actually relating this to data science, because you're bringing up a really good point. You talk about this lighting, right? each one of these things, like my videos, like I'm slowly learning and I'm slowly building on it. So to data science, right, for to begin with Python, I could barely like do any web scraping whenever I first learned Python. And it's just like I first learned with like, oh, I'm going to do some analytics of maybe some Jupyter notebooks and analyze a certain data set. And then I moved further, I could do that. And then I moved into web scraping, and then I moved into something else. The same concepts that I learned in data science, I've applied in my social media. I mean, the first time I did a video in here, I didn't have a blue light and I didn't have a good camera and I didn't have good lighting. It's just like every single time, every single video, I'm iterating further and trying to progress it even further. And I think it's the same approach that I take in my data science as well. I'm slowly, every single project that I do, if you're not trying to learn a little bit more or learn or progress your skills a little bit more, like, do you even have a passion for this? Like, because you should be learning every single time. Every single time I'm doing something, I'm learning something new.
Okay. You've touched on a hack that I figured out. And that is that you are shameless. You put it out there. Like so you didn't put the perfect first video out. In fact, you look at it and you're like, that wasn't focused. Yeah. It was funny because I got called out on LinkedIn because like I am creating this marketing analytics case study course, and I just was like, all right, here's the bones of the case study. Here's like, this is a first draft, and somebody grilled me. They were like, John, to be frank, this looks very unprofessional. This is hurting your personal brand, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you totally missed the point. And it's like, it's interesting because it's a spectrum. It's like, you can put out a ton of iterations and you can start from a pretty sloppy place. And then after 4 or 5 cuts at it, you're at a pretty decent place. Or you could put out one post the entire year that is just this immaculate piece. Maybe 400 or 500 people see it, but people like seeing that narrative of like iteration 1, iteration 2, they get invested with that. But yeah, it's totally my approach. And that's how I learned analytics was I did a project, got feedback from my clientele of like, oh, you might want to try this. You might want to try doing this, or this is how I would use it. And just over, I would say 3 or 4 year period, I got enough feedback that I can be like, okay, this is how a CMO typically thinks about analytics. Here's how a CFO thinks about it. And I kind of have these mental models built out. But I almost feel like it's, I'm like, I don't know. I'm just taking their ideas and then incorporating.
It would sort of makes me upset that somebody like tries to your first iteration of something. They're like, oh, it's going to hurt your brand. Like, you have to put stuff out there. You have to put yourself out there. And not to go into it, but I had another social media where I was running like a meal prep page or a food Instagram page. Anyway, I was doing analytics around foods, and the first one I started with was this like I did analytics on the nutrition value of certain foods, and I did it in R and posted this graph, and like it got no views or hardly any views. And I like social media because you can get that kind of feedback. And I've slowly progressed it that profile to include more pictures, make it more interactive. And actually, I would see the more engagement from users with that iteration of going from one to the next. I know it's a social media example, but I was implementing data science in social media, and I was progressing my skills. And if I look at my first post compared to my last post, it's like it was a world of difference, and I grew because I took that first step.
Right. But you have to be a little bit fearless to take that first step, because it's like you've got a really ugly baby and you're letting the world see it. And
and they're going to call you out.
Oh, yeah. But I feel like you can kind of sidestep a lot of that criticism. So that guy who gave me this like really scathing LinkedIn post, I thought he was just trolling me. Yeah. And I almost blocked him. But then I like posted something else, and I noticed that he wasn't trash talking me. He was like kind of trying to protect me in his own way, which is really interesting. Like getting over the, like he probably doesn't like to put things out and be criticized. Right. So like in his mind, he's like, no, don't do that. Don't get ready. Like do better first and then put it out. And I'm trying to help you, but it like, oh man, it came off as just like,
no. And I've had similar experiences where somebody will comment very similar to you, will comment on like a video or something and like say a very sort of negative thing. And then I'll respond back. because I like to respond to all the comments, and you'll get more depth, exactly like you said. You get more, and you understand, like, oh, they're not trash talking it. They're actually like, they have a vested interest in you getting better, and they're actually trying to help you. Just how they came across initially wasn't the best, and maybe you need to just ask more questions to get that feedback, so that way you can iterate further. Because it sounds like in your case as well, like you learn from it and you progress from that.
Right. Well, and it's funny because I was actually really mad. Like, I had to go on a walk because I was my impulse is to shoot back, and I was gonna go into attack mode, and it's like, no, I went on a walk and I called Al, and Al calmed me down and was just like, because Al's more active on social media than I am. So he gets the trolls. And I think part of what happens is that as you start to get more of a reach, the people on the hedges don't know who you are, and they kind of are likely to just throw really sharp criticism at you that's not calibrated.
Right.
So I think that's what we're trying to do with this Discord server that Hunter is kind of spearheading the project on. Of, hey, let's get a data source. We can all have a call. I'm not quite sure how Hunter's going to structure this, but it's like you're in this in group, and we are kind of in it together, and we're like kind of this analytics family of like, all right, we're learning together. Yeah, don't do this, and this is why, but it's coming from someone that and it's calibrated, and it's not just like, I don't know, just
yeah. No, this sounds like a good opportunity. It sounds like, I haven't seen it, the Discord server either, but it sounds like it's a good place to basically be shameless, like you're saying, put yourself out there, get some feedback from others, and more of a protected environment to get further develop yourselves to get out there.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I love that I totally asked you like, what's your journey? And then we like pivot into personal branding, which spoiler alert, that's like the podcast. But speaking, okay, this is a layered nuance kind of pivot. You built your brand. I know you've had 1.5 million views on your Google Analytics, because that's your breakout video that all of a sudden, that's
what
like,
people know me for.
That's like your Pareto, 80% of your subs probably come from that one video, right?
Right.
The reason that you get a certification is for the personal branding component of it. What are your thoughts on that? Like, now that because the video is, I'm not sure if I would say clickbait, but it's very enticing. Like, can this certification get you a data analytics
right,
job?
Exactly. It's a question. It does have definitely a clickbaity type thing to it. That's why it probably got 1.5 million views. But legitimately, that's what they were saying. And I'm just repeating what they were saying. And we were trying to investigate, can it actually get you a job? And we've done a few videos trying to explore that. And so, sorry. So your question is, what are my thoughts on the certification then? Okay. Or just certifications in general?
Let me get it like kind of sussed out, because I'm kind of like pulling this from like multiple areas. All right. Succinctly put, does a certification improve your personal brand and help you bring more job opportunities in the analytics space?
I say yes. But I think the mindset that people are, but it's from I don't want to be careful how I explain that. So yes, definitely. But people, I think, whenever they click this video or try to look into this Google Data Analytics certificate, they think they're going to post this certificate on the resume, like that's the main bullet up at the top, and they're going to get a job or somebody going to notice them, and that's not the case. So I'll start from a personal example, right? I went to school and got my MBA, and when I was there, I learned Excel, and also I learned R. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of skills being taught. Like, I was trying to find other tools to learn, and my school wasn't offering a lot of those tools. So I had to go on my own and do my own certificate programs, if you will, to try to learn Python, try to learn Tableau, try to learn Power BI. And those certificate programs taught me the skills that I needed to know and have therefore progressed me in my career. Do I go around and tell do I tell, like, when I'm applying for different positions within my company, do I be like, hey, I have this data scientist certificate? Because they'll be like, I don't care. Like, what did you do? Like, like I'll be like, okay, hey, I built this Power BI dashboard where I can now connect 100 of different customers across a broad range to go to this one portal and be able to analyze their analytics and performance. And it had this type of business impact on this business. And they're like, oh, okay. And so the certificate was the reason why I could do that. And now I have this impact that I can actually share. So yes, certificates can, but in a roundabout manner.
So wait, basically the certificate is the conduit for you to be able to like have the tool set to actually affect change in an organization.
Correct. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to say, and it seems like our audience, so Anant is saying certification helps, but only if you apply it in all capital letters for those of you who are just listening to this as a podcast.
What up, Anant? How's it going?
Is he one of your followers?
Anant is who we talked in one of Life After does the Google Data Analyst certificate help you get a job. He was one of the guys that was on the show that I interviewed.
Oh, perfect. Because have you done like a Q&A, like a long form? Because that's all we're doing now is just long form content.
Yeah, I don't do, I want to shift more into long form content. But my channel, I'm finding I need to keep it shorter. Got to keep it engaging. I do like long form, and I think there's a market for that. But I think if I try to mesh it into my channel, I think it's going to potentially have issues. So maybe I'll have a separate channel or something like that in the future where I have more long form content.
So it could be like Luke's nearest, Luke's closest neighbor.
I'm not gonna steal Ken's idea. No.
Yeah. Okay. So getting back to the certification, actually we had Al chiming in here. And this is a completely serious comment here. Wait, you mean the headline, Google certified data analyst doesn't close the deal all by itself?
Al knows the answer to that.
Yeah, well, because, okay, so Dr. Hall is one of our co-hosts and contributors for the podcast. He just took over the dean position at HPU's business school. And I think he's got a PhD in economics, and we talk about signaling theory a lot. So getting a certificate, there is no barrier to entry. So it's not like you have to have a 650 or above to be able to have that certification. Because, like, for example, getting into an Ivy League school, just getting in there, that is a signal into itself that, okay, well, you worked really hard in high school, you're disciplined, blah, 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 blah. I mean, we could go into a whole tangent of like, okay, that is a signal, but is it worth the 6-figure cost there?
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. But you're also in that boys club. So it seems like to me that these certificates don't carry a lot of weight on the face of it.
Right. Right. I mean, if you have a degree from like Harvard and you have this Google Data Analytics certificate, like, yeah, it's going to be the Harvard guy is probably going to win. But if you have an impact with this Google Data Analytics certificate, like I caused an increase in $1 million in profit, and then you have this Harvard grad, the guy that got the $1 million profit increase is probably going to get the job because he had an impact.
All right. Speaking of impacts, this one guy has asked the same question like 8 times. I don't know if we should reward his poor behavior, though.
Did you study data structures and algorithms? Yeah, I mean, not like that's sort of I don't know. Like, yeah, I guess so. I feel like when you're learning a tool, you like, let's say I'm learning Python or something, and I want to do some sort of analytics, like a regression. I'm going to, at that point, I don't have a knowledge base on this regression. I'm going to go study more about this regression. And what's that one YouTube channel, 3 Blue Brown or?
3 Blue 1 Brown, right?
3 Blue 1 Brown. Like I'm going to go watch some of those videos and learn more about my skills that I'm not. But it's when I'm getting into some sort of application and some sort of algorithm or some sort of mathematics that I don't understand, then I'm going to start diving into the mathematics more to understand it. Okay,
so I feel like there's a subtext to this question, is that, and it's kind of the perfect time for this person to ask this question, because I think it's, in my opinion, it's the wrong question. So,
yeah,
data structures and algorithms are inputs, but we just talked for the past 5 to 10 minutes about outcomes. So it's like focusing on, okay, how do I do this specific math problem? And it's like you get fixated on this. And this seems like a very common trap in the data science space, where you get like super hyper fixated on something that might move the needle 0.0000001%. Actually, I'm going to keep going with zeros for how many times he repeated the same question. 0.000. But it's like these people get fixated on these things that are really, they're just tangents. They're not the main thing. It's like we need to focus on, okay, how can I increase the return on investment of my marketing? Not, all right, I need to find the perfect machine learning algorithm to predict the buyer persona that closely fits our target demographic. It's like that's all inputs, and that's like studying, but it's like, does it actually move the needle in terms of impact?
Yes. I think you're nailing it directly. It's like, and just to add on to that further, it's, hey, there's a problem, there's some sort of business problem, some sort of business scenario. How can I solve this? Like, what can I use to solve it? Oh, I need to know these type of things in order to solve this problem. And you'll build it along the way. You'll build that skill set. You'll understand more about data structure and algorithms because I'm trying to solve this problem. And that in itself, of trying to solve that problem, is the motivation to learn those different things.
Awesome. Well, okay. So this is an interesting question. Can you even answer it? And so Alex Santana is asking, what is one of your greatest data achievements and what methods helped you achieve it? This is where it gets tricky because a lot of the consulting work, I can't be extremely specific because it's, I've signed an NDA. Can you answer that? I mean, or can you talk about something broadly speaking?
Greatest data achievement and what methods helped you achieve it? Oh my goodness. It's always
well, okay, I don't even know what that means, data achievement. Maybe we should start there. How are you interpreting data achievement?
I'm just assuming some sort of data project that I worked on, and what was I proud of with it, and what helped me achieve it.
So we're doing a little bit of improv here. So Matt Bratton's tuning in and saying, all right, so okay, instead of a data achievement, what is the biggest insight that you've gleaned from data? So turning data into insights. If you have a biggest win story, and this actually might be, I'm putting you on the spot here because this is like, I'm interviewing you. Well, I mean, I'm interviewing you, but not in a traditional sense of like, you got the job, But all right, let's role play that I am your interviewer. So Luke,
oh my God.
What is the biggest achievement? So what's your biggest achievement so far? How would you explain that in an interview setting?
Yeah, I would actually say that most recently, I do have some business examples, but I don't feel like they were that. Yeah, I do have some business examples, but I'm not going to give that. I'm going to give this personal example, right? So my friend recently actually reached out to me. He's in his master's program. He's trying to do a paper on cybersecurity and basically find out if the hacks and basically exploitation of cybersecurity within certain companies can be tracked via something online, such as financial reports, like 8Ks and 10Ks. Do they have some sort of language in there that potentially shows that this leads to potential hacks in cybersecurity? So my friend actually asked me, he said, hey, can you help me out with this project? Right now, I'm going to these 8K and 10K reports. Like, he'll go to JP Morgan Chase and he'll put in Control F for finding cybersecurity and see how many times the word appears. And then he'll do that for 2020, 2019, 2018. And he'll do that for 20 years. And then he has to go to the next company. And I'm like, dude, I can use Python to do this analysis, and we can do this at even more of a detail and start keying even more words itself. And so this is why the achievement that I want to share is I use Python to actually go to the internet, grab all the financial reports for all the different companies they wanted for the last 20 years. So I used Python for that. And then from there, once I had it, I then used Python to actually go through and do some basically NLP and analyze the text itself. and to understand what type of keywords they're using and to analyze for specific use and specific targeting. And yeah, so I used Python to grab this and then also analyze it. And I was really proud of this. This was awesome. And so my friend could actually use this data in his paper to find out if there was a trend or if there was analysis. And the best part is, so I did this within a few hours of this analysis, there's no correlation. So like, so I basically saved him time. Like there was no actual correlation between these words appearing and the cybersecurity incident. So I thought it was funny because some people may spend weeks or months trying to collect all this data. I did it within a few hours, and we just disproved the theory. So we saved basically we can go on to the next thing now. So I don't have an impact, but I saved a bunch of time. I thought it was interesting. I couldn't have done this project 2 to 3 years ago. I didn't know anything about web scraping. I didn't know anything about analysis Python, and I did it just within a short amount of time just recently. And it's just like, wow, that's awesome. I don't have an impact with it, but I feel good, and I saved my friend weeks and months of time. Okay.
All right. Before I chime in, so it looks like you've got quite the admirer here. So think about me. He said he needs to keep the buns tight. Keep the man bun jokes flowing. They're really good. All right.
I hope he's talking about that bun. Okay.
Okay. Do you mind if I put on my professor cap and critique how you explain that?
Uh-huh.
So this is kind of something that I've taught. So we would go through a case study in my case studies business analytics class at Greensboro College. And we did it at Summit High Point when I taught the special projects class. But I'd pull one of the students up and be like, all right, now explain this project. So I want to be gentle. So you did it backwards, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So you went through all the detail, and then you were like, here's the high level insight.
Yeah.
So what you could say is, I disproved that theory, and I can't quite remember how you worded it. So I would start there. Then, that's piqued my interest, and then kind of make it a little bit more conversational. But I mean, it sounds like a really interesting insight. But also too, I mean, this is kind of the ideal setup in that I am not technical. So you need to start with because you kind of lost me when you were like talking about like, well, I'm not technical and I'm not really finance minded. I'm more of a sales and marketing guy.
Yeah.
So like, it was like overwhelming. So you got to break it down to like kindergarten math, like this and this, and then kind of lead the conversation. But I mean, I don't want to like, this is unprovoked. I don't want to give you too harsh of criticism.
No, I appreciate it. I like feedback. Well, I had never really shared that story too much with anybody, so
okay,
no, it's good.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I guess this feels a little awkward to me, but we're gonna go to our first commercial break. For those of you who are in the chat log, we're gonna go from the commercial to the Q&A section. So we're gonna be focusing more on the live chat. So if you guys have been tuning in, I haven't like tapped you or one of your questions so far. I just wanted to kind of like focus on Luke and give him the spotlight and be present because it is tough. But all right, so this is the premiere actually of our first promo for the marketing analytics course. Are you looking for real data to analyze? An actual problem to solve? An experience worth talking about in an interview? Well, in this case study course, you get a real world problem with a messy data set and a business outcome that's on the line. My name is John David, and I'm the founder of Silvertone Analytics, a boutique consulting agency that focuses on business analytics. I'm also a professor of analytics at Greensboro College. And in 2021, I had the privilege of combining these two worlds. My real-world Greensboro College students got to work with my Silvertone Analytics clientele for the Analytics Minor Capstone course at Greensboro College. This case study course is modeled after the lessons, the trials, and the tribulations that my students went through in the Analytics Minor Capstone course. My students got to work directly with the president of an organization that is clearing over $150 million in revenue every year. And this case study course keeps the exact same data structures that they worked through in that case study. But I anonymize the data to protect my client's privacy. So are you ready to solve a real-world business use case? Build a killer analytics portfolio and even learn how to communicate these findings in an interview setting? Well, click the Take This Course button now and join me inside. All right, so literally nobody left a single question, so big fail. But I got a question for you. Great job, chat. Listening to, I guess they just see, I'm still figuring out the live stream thing. Yeah. I think that we talk about something interesting and it sparks an idea with them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Anant, we've at least piqued some curiosity because he wants the data set. We're going to go through a second video. I'm going to go through the video or the data set in a little bit more detail. But one thing that I wanted to kind of ask, and I'm going to go back and pick up that thread, is that so you have an MBA and you're in the analytics space. Right. Are you more of a business analyst or a data analyst in your perspective?
I would say I was hired in as a business analyst to be, and for those that aren't what I would coin as a business analyst, is somebody that necessarily doesn't go into, somebody that does use data and develop some sort of business insights, but I wouldn't say they're in the details of the data itself. I wouldn't say they're using Python. They're probably not using Tableau, building dashboards or anything like that. They're just, hey, maybe looking at some key insights and looking across the at a sort of high level. And so that was what I was hired into as a business analyst. But from there, I transitioned more into actual being a data analyst, where I'm actually looking at the data, analyzing the data, maybe developing some sort of dashboard so that way other users can go in and look at their own data sets, if you will. But yeah, I guess my schooling was trying to prepare me for business analyst, but I just wanted my own passion to go towards data analyst.
So I kind of see it as a spectrum. So there's let me make sure I'm on screen. On this end of the spectrum, there is data science, data analytics. On this end of the spectrum, there is business analytics, or almost like data. Like what I do is data-driven consulting. So I pretty much either have my floaties on or I swim in the kiddie pool in terms of actual analytics hard skills. So I know how to connect Excel to Tableau or Power BI, maybe do a little bit of SQL coding, just sprinkled it in. I mean, honestly, it's just I find someone else's code on Reddit or the Power BI or Tableau forums and then just reappropriate it for my use case. Right. So it sounds like you thought you were going to be more at this end of the spectrum, the business analytics side, but you kind of gravitated more towards the harder science. I mean, was that surprising to you, or have you always? I mean, I guess if you're a submariner, there's probably a very technical acumen side to that, right?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's very much based in theory and very much based in procedures and procedural compliance. There's a lot of, it's basically engineering. So I've always gravitated to math and gravitated to improving skills in science. So I think it was sort of more of a natural fit for me to want to go towards that end of the spectrum of data analytics, vice that just staying with business analytics, and nothing wrong with PowerPoint and stuff like that. But I'm trying to go into the details itself and try to find the underlying issues.
See, we couldn't be any more different on that aspect. I'm I might pull a data scientist and be like, go figure this out for me, but I'm not gonna oh man. See, because what invigorates me and gets me passionate is I have a very strong entrepreneurial mind. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you've heard of this book called the E Myth Revisited. It's a book on entrepreneurship. So any entrepreneur has you have to wear three different hats. So you have the entrepreneur, which is the visionary. You have the technician, who is a person like you, you're a technician, you love doing the crunching and the hard thing. And then the third hat is the manager. So I love that kind of stack of what are you? Are you kind of the strategy person, which would be the entrepreneurship mindset, or are you the technician? And it feels like the more that I get into this space, I have a divergent interest or mindset than the majority of the audience. Because it sounds like they're mostly like you, they love things and they love tactics and I don't know, going really deep into a knowledge base.
Yeah, no, I could very much resonate with what you said. And I like that, how you explained the three different hats. And I do feel that way. I do, especially being in the Navy. I was more of a leader and leader of teams, and so my data analyst career has more, unfortunately, transitioned to being, if you will, like an individual contributor, where I'm going in and looking or building or working on some sort of project. So yeah, but I think with that, my skills from the Navy and what I learned with working with teams has been instrumental in me being able to communicate my insights, communicate a need, or communicate some sort of problem that I was able to solve, and be able to translate that to them in a succinct manner.
Right. Well, I mean, in the book, they talk about that. Like the major challenge of the technician is communicating with management.
Yeah.
Like getting buy-in. If you, how to phrase this? If you don't have the soft skills to get buy-in on your project, that is going to shoot your career in the kneecaps. I mean, you're just going to be like not able to progress. You're going to get pigeonholed. Because I've seen this. I mean, I've only worked corporate for like, I don't know, 6 months, but in those internships,
let's find out to get your feet wet.
Yeah, but I saw someone who was pigeonholed in a role where they could not move forward because nobody listened to them. They were just like the person who got dumped all the projects onto. They had great ideas and they were probably right, but they didn't have the ability to convince someone that to kind of, I mean, this is kind of getting into that entrepreneurship headspace of like, here's how the system works, and I need to show you what I see. So it's like I really like the metaphor of the entrepreneur, the visionary, the manager, and the technician, and because you kind of have to cultivate all three of those. And it's kind of like it's a skill stack in a weird way of like, all right, well, if you're a really good technician, you, instead of going to your 8th Python or R course, maybe you should start to study soft skills. And it's going to be really uncomfortable, and it's going to be like kind of grating to you, I think, on some level. But those are the real insights that I think.
How do you study soft skills though?
So there are a lot of books on psychology, and what's funny is I had a meeting, like a kind of a lunch meeting with one of my former business partners, who's the president of this company called the Brooks Group. So Gary Fly, his company does sales training, and I mean, sales training is all soft skills development. Pitching people. So I mean, it sounds counterintuitive, but if you want to be a killer data scientist, you're gonna have you're gonna have to develop your hard skills, but then also you're going to have to learn the art of influencing people, which I think you're doing, obviously, because I mean, your YouTube channel's blowing up. I mean, we're a little jealous over here.
It'll come. I promise for y'all. The soft skills are, I mean, I think books are a good starting point, but just like you said, the actual implementation, working with others, putting yourself out there, like that first example that you gave when we first started talking about getting that negative, if you will, negative feedback, and then obviously communicating further. But you have to dive in. Like doing that 9th SQL course may not be best. Maybe you need to just get out there and start talking and working with others to get some sort of feedback and to understand how you need to influence others in your analytics.
All right, this is a perfect pivot into. So I think this is Kinga. She's just put her last name up. People on YouTube, put your full name so like I can like call you out easily. Like I recognize Kinga from the photo here, but so she says, Luke, can you give us your take on contacting a manager on LinkedIn as a networking strategy? What would you say if you were doing this? Or have you ever done this? I guess let's back up.
So I have, going back when I was searching for jobs, and I think I hate to bring social media into this, but I get a lot of messages all the time of people usually asking some sort of question or having some sort of need. And so I guess the answer to the question is, you have a need, right? You have some sort of, you have a problem, you're trying to get a job. Instead of just like going up front about this job, can you offer some sort of value to that manager or to whoever that person, right? Oh, like I want to interview with this one company. Maybe I'm going to put together a few analytics or a few different data insights to one, showcase my skills, but also and then from there present it to that manager if they're the right person, to show them, hey, these are some insights that I found with your company. I'm also interested in your company. So it shows a lot of different things, and it's not just you contacting them being like, hey, can I have a job? Can we connect? Yeah, it's actually providing value.
I think also, okay, so I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here. I went to the first networking event post-COVID, and it's weird now. It's like I've lost the charisma and like I don't know, comfort of meeting and talking to new people face to face, just because I've been isolated for so long. But although I do have a new perspective on it, but yeah, I think that there are certain people, and I'm thinking of the people who were there. There was one person who approached me and it was very very transactional. Like, I know who you are. Here's what you can do for me. And it was like, I remember thinking, I want to end this conversation. Mm-hmm. And then, like a minute or two later, I was like, oh, sorry, I gotta go to the bathroom. And that's how I closed that conversation. But, and it's like, I don't know that guy very well. So it's not my place to be like, hey, you're coming on a little strong. Mm-hmm. Although, I don't know, maybe I should. But I echo that sentiment of reaching out to someone directly on LinkedIn and saying, hey, you have what I need, give it to me. It's just not. Yeah, it's not going to work.
Okay, it's just take a ticket. You're going to another person line. But you come in, you're like, provide some value. Hey, I noticed this video that at this point, maybe you could improve this, or maybe, hey, this analytics will provide some sort of insight, but I'm looking forward to connect. You don't necessarily have to mention job or anything like that, but maybe you provide value first and then see if it can be reciprocated.
Well, what's funny is that so Kinga left us a very similar comment on one of the last episodes. So it's neat that like I can kind of get a feel on Kinga's very hungry, and it looks like she's looking to make that transition and start connecting to these hiring managers. What's funny is that I referred her to Gary Fly came on and did a guest lecture where we went through this exact exercise. So we had Molly, who we helped her transition within. I mean, it was a 2-month transition, which is. I don't want to like put the wrong or misinformation out there. Being able to transition from a non-analytics job into an analytics job in 2 months, a little bit unrealistic. She got somewhat lucky, and we also kind of fast tracked her, like just because I don't know. I've known Molly for a long time, so I could critique her and like put her in the right kind of headspace. But one of the things we did on that lecture was we pulled up LinkedIn and we typed in analytics manager, filtered it to her area, and then was like, all right, here, let's craft this message. Right. So, yeah, I feel like Gary did say something very similar. Only he just did it in different words. So instead of giving value, he would say, just be a connector. So like, oh, I read this article. I thought you might be interested in this. Or, oh, I can make an introduction to this person who might come on your YouTube channel, or here's a topic idea that I think is no one's done. So it's like you give value, and it's less just like a one-sided.
Right. And it shows them on their side that you're not just like mass emailing a bunch of people like for help. Like you took the time to research, to analyze maybe their problem they're trying to solve, and you're trying to help them out. Maybe what you're providing is useless, but at least you took the time and effort, and and hopefully they should notice that. And I would want to work for an employer that does notice that.
Awesome. So Kinga, she did watch that Gary Fly episode, and she said it was great. Kinga, if you are still on the call or on the live chat, I would love to hear if you could just type out quickly, like what insights you gleaned specifically out of that episode. But what was interesting is that one of the first people we found was actually an analytics manager that me and Gary pitched. So man, I am starting to get old, and it's freaking me out. So back like 3-4 years ago, Gary was a third partner in Silvertone Analytics. So it was a limited liability partnership, and we were actively pitching companies around the Greensboro area. And what's interesting is that this guy, Dom, who works for a marketing agency here, was just an analyst. And within those 3 to 4 years, he became the analytics manager. And then we helped her craft that message. And what was interesting is that he also touched on soft versus warm leads. Like, do you have any like understanding what I mean when I say, so to give you some context, I sold insurance before I went and got my MBA.
Okay.
So this is kind of my space. Yeah. So like cold calling is where you go and you reach out to people you have no contact with or So in that podcast episode, Molly said, "Hey, I know Gary Fly. He wanted, or you came up in a conversation I was having with Gary Fly, and then that all of a sudden makes you a known entity instead of just some faceless. Because I mean, from your perspective, as someone who gets a lot of messages, it's overwhelming, and if it doesn't resonate with you, I mean, you just let it go, right?"
I mean, I try to answer even like I try to help out as much as possible and answer like emails and comments as much as possible. So, because I feel it helps in my development as well. So I still answer it, but I don't think you're going to find other people that are going to do the same thing as me. There are sometimes like if people ask me questions and it's like very vague, that I'm like, okay, I'm just not even going to deal with it. But
yeah. Well. Also, too, another point I think is interesting is that I think most analytics managers probably are not getting very many messages on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
What's your read on that?
I don't know. I'd have to pull some analytics managers.
Well,
what do you think?
Okay, I think you and I are different.
Yeah.
Than the majority, like the 99% of people that are on LinkedIn, because we have a public-facing persona. But most analytics managers, they go to work and they do their thing, and they might be on LinkedIn on occasion, but they don't live and breathe. And I mean, you and I have a very strong ego for us to just have to broadcast ourselves out
you
there.
Do. You do. Uh-huh.
So if analytics manager is somewhat introverted, they're probably not going to be posting a ton. So if you follow them and interact with their post, you can actually warm them up that way too, of like, oh, I found that interesting, and then maybe link to another article or something like that, and engage with them ahead of time instead of just like, bam, here's my ask, here's what I need.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, I was hoping to stall. Oh wait, here we go. So let's see what King. So I really liked when Gary suggested an intro where you say something like, yeah, so exactly. I was talking to John about your company. So what that does is it kind of takes the edge off, and it's almost like a referral.
It is.
Like where, although that third party is not actively participating, you're just saying that.
Yeah, I mean, they could make an introduction, but I would prefer just the person shows that they have the confidence enough to reach out to me with something like that. Like I like that. That seems like a good, compelling statement to start.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, Gary is the president of a company that does sales training, so I think he would know how to sell somebody. All right. I think we've milked that quite a bit. Let's pivot. So Al's got a question here. So Al is wondering how Luke manages his time with engagement. It quickly eats up a ton of time answering emails and LinkedIn messages. So yeah, I think you already kind of touched on this a little bit. If it's vague, you won't answer it.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like, how do I become a data analyst? Like, okay, like, no, you're like, no, I'm not listening. I can't, like, that's too broad. Like, go, you have to start that journey on your own. But sometimes it's like, hey, what are your thoughts on like this certificate? Or what are your thoughts on this? And then usually I'll provide some sort of guidance along that way. But to answer Al's question, right, I don't have like on my phone, I don't have YouTube or LinkedIn or any of my messages set up to get like notifications, because I'd go insane. I specifically just set time in the day to go through and answer questions within a period of block. So usually, unfortunately, it's like at lunch while I'm eating my lunch, I'll pop open YouTube real quick, answer all questions, comments on YouTube, and then from there, go over to LinkedIn, answer any questions, comments. And I try to just reserve 30 minutes every single day to do that, to stay on top of it. Because if you don't stay on top of it, then you get behind, and then you'll never catch back up.
I was gonna say I'm behind. I'm never gonna catch up.
Yeah, you have to be meticulous about it. because yeah.
Well, okay. I guess, so I was asking you about like, it was a silly question to ask. How do you feel about this other person's perspective? Instead of asking you how hiring managers feel, I think having you give insight about the volume of contacts you get, it's a different dynamic reaching out to a hiring manager who is not public facing versus you, because you have, I mean, how many messages a day would you say that you get?
I mean, I'm getting like 15 to 20 comments on YouTube that I'm trying to reply to every single day, and then probably getting like 5 messages a day, being email or LinkedIn. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess that's sort of high volume. I don't know.
25 messages a day plus a full-time job plus you're doing YouTube. Right. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that 25 a day if you were working part-time is fine. But if you're probably working like what, 60, 70, 80 hours a week with everything combined?
Yeah, a lot of hours. I don't like to think about how many hours I work. I have fun doing this. There's a lot of hours.
Right. Well, yeah. I'm not virtue signaling on your part of like hustle. I think the YouTube thing is like I can see the passion come through and like how you set up your B-roll footages and how you set up the lighting. Because I mean, I geek out in a similar way about the podcast and connecting with people because it doesn't really feel like work. In fact, it's almost anti-work because it's energizing. It fills my tank up as opposed to, like answering 25 messages a day might be a little bit of a drain on that energy tank.
Mm-hmm. Well, but I mean, some of these messages are like, I love your YouTube channel, or I love this. You inspired me to do this. And it's like, then it is energizing. So it can be a rewarding experience. But there are some that it's like, hey, what do you think of this certificate? And it's like, well, I think this. But I think I need to provide that value to you.
So maybe don't ask open-ended, cognitively draining questions. Be like, would you agree with this? Yes or no? Or yeah. All right. So let's pop over to this last question, and then we'll do our last commercial break and head over to our Discord server. So Viviana asks, Luke, have you ever faced the fear of applying for a job or talking to a new client in the data analytics or data science space? Kind of feeling imposter syndrome. So I love this question.
Yeah.
Wait, do you have the opposite problem like I do?
What is that? What's the opposite problem?
I believe that the opposite problem of imposter syndrome is delusions of grandeur, where you're overly confident when you shouldn't be.
No. Did you come across that? You feel you come across with that?
What's funny is as I become more like successful or secure, I'm realizing that there are a whole lot of things that I didn't account for, and I shouldn't have been so confident early on. But that confidence led to my success. It's this weird like thing I'm trying to work out in my own mind.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. I don't think it's bad. I guess to answer the question though, imposter syndrome. So obviously having a military background, I was put in a lot of different strange situations, and there were situations that I was like leading certain tasks, and I shouldn't have been leading the task. Like I didn't feel like I had the knowledge base, and I was able to, after it, I was able to reflect on, and we were still able to accomplish it. And so it was sort of it built my confidence level up in what I can actually do. So I had that experience in the Navy. And that helped set up my success, or helped set up my my mindset for not having this imposter syndrome through that. So in data science and data analytics, no, not necessarily, because I've like failed so much in the Navy that now it's like I'm used to it now within this realm. But I can see it for people that are, especially this may be a new career or a new life that they're living. Yes, you are going to have this. And the thing is, it goes back to even our beginning, our conversation is just putting yourself out there. Understand you're going to have that sort of, you may have some negative feedback, but you know what? You take that feedback, you brush it off, and you make yourself better.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I feel like we just went full circle of, Yeah.
How you did the tone, yeah.
Yeah. You publish.
Oh no, did we lose? Are we still live? Am I alive? It's gonna. I think we may have lost John David. Let's see if we can get him back. If I'm the only one here right now, please hold on. We're having some technical difficulties. We'll be right back. Okay, I think we're trying to resolve it. I need to figure out how to drag Hunter in. Hunter, how do I drag you in, Hunter? Once again, I apologize, everybody. We're trying to figure it out. I'm typing in the chat right now and seeing if we can get through this. Oh, his internet went out. Oh, great. Oh, what a perfect time. At least it was, I guess, at the end or near the end of this segment. Let's see if he's going to be able to return. I'm trying to get Abe and Hunter in. We're still trying to troubleshoot through this. Just give a second.
Hey, lightning just struck my near me.
Wow,
took
back.
out.
Okay.
Just took out my power.
I don't have any controls over this, so we were trying to shift over to Discord, and I was like,
Okay, well, I guess there'll be like, I don't know how long that was. Like, there'll be a 4 or 5 minute break.
Yeah, there was like 4 minutes, and I'm like, oh, okay, like.
Okay, well, I guess
I should have been more entertaining. I should have told a Navy Sea story while we were waiting, but I didn't know how long it would be.
Oh, sorry, guys. That was an act of God. It was not anything I could do on that end. But
Hunter's asking to get let into
here. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna add in Hunter texted me.
Okay, I don't have that. I don't have those controls.
I don't know, but
they're like let me in, and I'm like, I can't let you in.
Okay. All right.
For me, that was just an experience of every YouTube channel has to go through one of these at some point in time, and I think today was just the day.
Well, I'm sure that this is like not it's funny. 18 people are still watching. Okay. All right. So let's go to commercial break. I wish we could have kept it. Let's cut to commercial break, and then Hunter, will you share your screen and we can go over the Discord server, because I do have kind of a sneak peek of inside the course. In this case study course, you're going to learn 3 things. Number 1, you're going to improve your business acumen. This means that you're going to learn about how business works. Then we're going to move into the second point, which is analytics hard skills. So once we understand how the business works, we're then going to use some business intelligence tools, specifically Tableau, to solve the business problem and uncover insights. And then the third point, which is very, very important, are the soft skills. And the whole last chapter is dedicated to how you can more effectively explain your findings and also talk about past projects in an interview setting. To be a little bit more specific, you're going to be calculating the return on investment of 2 different marketing channels. So we're going to be looking at our Amazon and our Facebook ad spend. And there are 3 different data sources. So our first data source is our cost data source. And this is where we can see all of the ad spend, and it's in one data source. Then there is a sales data source for Facebook and a sales data source for Amazon. The challenge is that we're going to have to combine all 3 of these data sources together and then isolate our spending data and associate it with the relevant sales data source. By the end of the project, you're going to figure out which of these has the highest return on investment. But you're also going to have a challenge where you're going to visualize the data and see if there are any insightful trends that you could communicate to our end client. So if you're up for a challenge, then sign up and let's get started. All right.
I had to make this. I had to make this in the middle of you guys talking. Al, I don't know if you can see this because you're on your phone right now, but
all right, you need to share that to LinkedIn.
Yeah,
that's there we go.
Getting right there.
That is some refined culture right
there. So
right
that being said, we need more of these in the Data Science Memes channel in the Discord. That's all I'm saying. So, I want to talk a little bit about the project collab today because I know you kind of touched on it briefly, and I haven't fully explained it to you. So I want to go ahead and talk about that now. So over the course of the past week or so, I was able to collaborate with Abe, who's in the call too, and we worked on a data set that I had found on Kaggle. It was actually interesting to me because it was a YouTuber subscriber count from 2019. And like, for example, Ken G had 4.4K subscribers during this time. And obviously now he has over 150,000 subscribers.
Wow.
So I thought it was just super interesting to work with that. And so the product of that was we actually had made a brief preview video that we had posted on LinkedIn and Discord. I don't know if there's probably some people in the chat who saw that, but for all those who didn't, we kind of came up with a visualization like this. Abe's is a little bit different than mine, but we worked through this together. It was kind of like a mini collab session with just me and Abe, and so the main point of the collaboration session is to more or less work with the same data set and come up with different outcomes for it, because anybody can just copy a lesson and end up with the exact same visualization and organization of the visualizations as the person who starts with working on it, but not everybody can come up with their own idea of it and how they think they should best visualize it. And so that's kind of what I know it was a real big mouthful, but that's kind of the gist of it. I don't know if you had.
So we've got approval from Al here. So he approves. Let's get our honorary guest's opinion on this. What are your thoughts, Luke?
On this visualization, or on the project?
Let me say this.
Okay.
Before criticizing the visualization, this was the result of less than half a day's work, and it's still in progress. And might I say, I forgot to mention this, but Abe actually linked me a video of yours that you made about conditional formatting in Tableau. And that is something that I am going to be working on during this collaboration session and implementing into this visualization.
Yeah, well, so Hunter, I think that we're not going to critique so much the work itself, but like, I guess the question I wanted to pose to Luke is like, do you have any feedback on our approach to this, like, kind of community building event? Or kind of, I mean, it's like a weekly thing that I think we're gonna start just trying to get people involved in learning, like conditional formatting, for example. That's something to not. I mean, there's multiple components to that because, like, yeah, it can be color coded, but like, are you using color wisely? And then also, how do you do it on the technical side?
Yeah. What? I guess my question is there a? Are we trying to answer, like, I understand, because this is my first time being exposed to it, so feel free to correct me if I'm understanding it wrong. So we're providing this data set, or this data, we're going to be going into visual, like, are we provided a problem, or are they coming up with a problem to solve?
Well, I suppose for this specific visualization, I wanted to keep it a little bit simpler and let them kind of play with the data a little bit. It actually ended up backfiring because this data set was more difficult to work with than I had initially anticipated.
They always are.
Yeah, but for the future, the intention will be to provide an issue, provide a problem, and the data associated with that problem. And then everyone sits in a Discord call. They can have the ability to share their screen over so that others can see what they're doing, what they're working on. And then everybody can make comments on that and have an input. So it's almost like a work environment where you have a team that can help make up for your own deficits, and it's kind of like that, except in our own community on Discord.
That's too awesome. No, I like that. I very much resonate with that, and I think they're onto a good approach, and I like the collaboration aspect. But I would definitely more encourage. Maybe going into people diving into, they want to answer certain questions like who has the highest growth, or who are the fastest growers, who have the most impact, or some sort of question you can dive into. Because I find myself, at least I know, if like I have a data set and I can be lost in hours just like going into the data and making visualizations if I don't have an actual end goal in mind to actually achieve.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was like, 3 hours into it. I was like, man, this is kind of difficult to kind of visualize. I feel like we're just making a graphic and there was really no question to answer. Mm-hmm. But that's the whole part of learning and collaborating.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we know not to do something like that again.
Yeah. Me and Abe discussed that several times over the course of the hours that we were working on this.
3 hours later.
Yeah, exactly. And it is a learning experience, and I really hope that our community takes this and runs, and that we get some more engagement out of this, because I really like working with our community. They all are very knowledgeable, and they're all very personable too. That's what I like about them, is that they act like human beings. It's not like just a robot sitting on a computer screen,
Right. Uh-huh.
And so I think this collaboration session, especially moving forward, will be a great opportunity for everybody.
All right, so I have Matt Bratton here pointing out problems but no solutions.
Yeah.
So maybe
typical.
Maybe you could get typical. Maybe you could get with Matt. Maybe you could talk to him off air and see if he can line up a more robust data set. Although, I mean, I am picking on him here, but he is providing some solutions. So here's an idea where you guys could take it. Could parse the channel names to see if there are any themes or keywords that have more or less subs. So, yeah.
True.
Yeah, it's also probably recommended if anyone wants to do this again to not try to do it in one night, break it up step-by-steps, because there's a lot that we probably missed that we could have done better. So yeah, definitely we're going to do that better next time. It's like probably start with like cleaning it together, because he might view cleaning differently than I will, and then, you know, step by step until we get to the final visualization.
True. And there have been a few issues, but Abe, can I ask you this? Did you still have fun working?
Yeah, it was a good time. I still have fun. You know, I like, you know, Tableau, data, you know, analytics and all that. So it definitely was a good time.
Yeah.
I like the learning experience that y'all had, though, of the data wasn't as clean as we expected, and ran into that happens all the time, and that's a learning experience, though, and it's so great that you get to see that.
Right. Yeah.
Ooh, you know what we could do? I'm just spitballing ideas. Is we could have someone join the live stream who worked on it, and then they could present the project to myself and whoever the guest is, and we could give them feedback on their pitch to help develop their soft skills.
That's a good idea.
Well, do you want to start it right now? Abe or Hunter? Actually, let's get Abe, because Abe, you haven't said very much.
Yeah. So you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, share your screen and pitch us like what is the value that you got out of it, and then we'll give you some feedback. Luke, I'm signing you up for things you did not volunteer for. Is this?
That's fine. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
We can now.
All right. So I actually just kind of changed this up yesterday.
Okay.
Because I had a tree map here on the right side, and I was just like, I kind of have double the data on both sides. So what I did, I have, you know, YouTube channel with over 200K subscribers on the left, because that's what you want to see the most, because we read from left to right. And then on the right side, it's YouTube channels that have less than 200K. So here are your top channels right here. And then here are your channels with not as many subscribers. So I kind of felt that showed the top and bottom, Vice just having one long row that you have to scroll down, and then just like, you know, two different visualizations that are essentially the same. One originally the bar chart on the left, and then the tree map on the right. And then you asked what I learned.
Yeah, what did you learn from this?
I learned
what were the challenges and how did you overcome them?
Challenges and how did I overcome them? The challenges were trying to figure out what to do, trying to answer a question when I didn't have enough data to answer a question. Because I posted this visual, and then one of my buddies was like, "What's the conversion rate? What's this and what's that?" And I was like, "I don't know. That data wasn't there." So definitely, probably, you know, kind of take a step back and, you know, try to solve a problem by just making a graphic. That was the biggest takeaway. For me, at least. And then finding a chart that actually makes sense with the data that I actually have.
Okay. So I've got kind of a frame that I could put around this that maybe you could take this concept or this framework and what are these messages? We can see your Slack now.
Oh, that's my Slack.
I was about to say, I don't know what's going on there, but so, okay, what you could do to kind of pivot this to be more of a solution orientation is that you could say, all right, we're doing a market research project. You know, Silvertone Analytics is a learning platform in the analytics space. They're looking for YouTube partnerships. So let's figure out which of okay, these are the YouTube channels in the analytics space. Which of them would be the most lucrative or the most I guess beneficial partnership for the platform? So maybe you could reframe it that way, and then that. I mean, Luke, do you kind of see the direction I'm going in? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah, and I maybe to make sure I'm understanding it correctly, what you're saying, and a little bit of my feedback is, can you guide somebody that's using this into what problem you're trying to solve? So in this case, like the problem you're trying to display is, hey, what was the highest, or what are the largest channels in YouTube? Maybe that's like the title across the top, and you're guiding them to that, but so you don't get these other questions that may not be relevant to what you talked about conversion rate, like somebody asked a question about conversion rate. you're guiding the, like, hey, this is the problem that I'm trying to solve. This is the data. This is the scope of this dashboard. So you don't get these type of questions that aren't, I wouldn't say not relevant, but not in scope of what your dashboard is trying to achieve.
Makes sense.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And I think a great example of this is because it really sort of matches with the type of data you had. A data set, a Tableau public data set that sticks out of my mind is that of, they had one, it was titled, what is the highest paid actor in Hollywood or whatever. Very simple. Had pictures or had 10 different actors, and you would go through and select each of the 10 actors, and then below it would tell you what their pay was and what movies they received the high pay in. It sort of has a very similar structure to this, but it was fun because it was like, oh, you clicked along each one of the things, you tried to answer that question while going through all the different actors. I don't know if you can do like you're talking about, hey, I mean more robust data. Well, maybe just work with what data you have, create a problem that you want to solve, and let the user of the dashboard try to solve that problem or understand that problem.
Yeah, it makes sense. Thanks for the feedback. I really appreciate it because this is we need to develop this more, and I'm excited to do that. So
yeah, y'all are on a great track though. This is awesome, and this is part of the learning experience. You're putting it out there, getting candid feedback, like right here, right now, putting you on the spot. So
I am no stranger to candid feedback. Let me let that be known.
Okay, so I have actually a idea just popped into my head. There is this civic group called Code for Greensboro, and they collect like civic data. For example, like what are the type of emergency calls made by zip code, so that you could start solving like actual problems for like city government or something like that. I was actually approached recently by I think the leader of that about potentially coming on the podcast. So maybe we could look for like volunteer projects like that. Like okay, what is the problem that the city data can solve? For example, back when I was on the board of Try Local First, which is a nonprofit that promotes local businesses, is what percentage of contracts are going to, Fortune 500 companies versus companies that are less than 500,000 in revenue or something like that. So maybe we should pivot it towards, and it doesn't have to be every like challenge we do has to be real data. I mean, we can do kind of like some kind of data sets that are modeled after real data. But I think maybe going in a civic route, at least maybe we could do seasons, or it could be just the next 2 or 3 are focusing on that. I think that could be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of doing something similar right now with the Veterans Advocacy Tableau user group. So right now we're working with this veteran organization. They're mostly into cycling for veterans that kind of help them with mental health and other issues. So we're in the works of talking to them and then kind of getting their data, or just kind of finding similar data and then just making visualizations for them to kind of help more so like promote, not more kind of like what Viz for Social Good does. I don't know if anyone's heard of them. Kind of like the same concept, just kind of promote them. Not really focusing on the analytics part, but just kind of making like, these really awesome visualizations to help them get more donors, help them get more outreach, and ultimately, help more veterans. So.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe that could be the next project. I mean, do you have a scoped out data source that we could use to analyze?
No, not yet. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that was
kind of that one-on-one thing
in the queue. Well, sweet. Okay, so Hunter, what are next steps with this? So people should just head over to the Discord server?
So around 15 minutes after this episode finishes, we're going to regroup a little bit. Me and I don't know if Abe is going to come on. Abe, are you still planning on coming on? Or?
Yeah, I'll be around.
All right, cool. So yeah, we're going to regroup a little bit and go back on the Discord. I'll make an announcement to the whole Discord for everyone who's not already in the YouTube or on LinkedIn right now. And we'll go ahead and get started. Considering all the feedback we've gotten around the data source, I have a backup data source. I don't know if you want to work around with that. It's actually one of the sales data sources that you had, John David.
Okay. Maybe. Let's focus. Luke, what do you think? Do you think that there's enough data here for them to do a challenge?
I haven't seen the source data set. I don't know.
Hunter, you want to pull it up?
Yeah. So let's see.
Well, that's true. Yeah, the visualization was just showing one bar chart of one data set. All right, let me add in. Okay.
So we have.
Okay. Yeah, this was it. Okay.
Yeah, we did.
YouTube channel name here, subscribers and actual approximate subscribers. These are two very similar columns. There's a few rounding differences between the approximate subscribers and the regular amount, the initial amount.
Mm-hmm.
We have the YouTube channel link here, and then there's just several columns that say what subscriber count they're between, and that's the data that we have, that we were pretty much provided with. And there's no time period, which was the initial problem for me and Abe, is that it was hard to make several different visualizations without a timing figure anywhere.
Yeah, so as far as this data source, it's you are very limited. Like, we need something maybe over time periods, like different years, to see how they've changed over time. Maybe some connections of videos to connect to this and seeing what their use is. I think this is a good start to maybe look at maybe highest channel, but I'd be more interested in looking at something like growth rate, or what videos of subscribers that have an impact and an influence, like what keywords or topics have been drivers in subscriber growth. I think those are interesting questions. Like, what is the largest channel?
Yeah, I understand.
It's a start, though.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. And sorry, how again did you get this data?
So I had been perusing Kaggle for a little while, and I saw something that said data science YouTube channels, and I was like, that's perfect. I can't see how this could go wrong at all. And then an hour into working, and ended up with that. But
no, well, I think that this is actually, I mean, I'm putting on my professor hat again, but I mean, this is a good lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, Hunter, what are the limitations of this data source?
No timing, no geodata. It's hard to come up with meaningful insights because they're just single data points at a single point in time.
Right. So I would say there's limited dimensions in metrics. There's only one metric for you to look at, which is subscriber, which I'm going to have to go back on kind of the direction I wanted to go in earlier on in my suggestion of, should I invest in a partnership with one of these channels? And Luke, correct me if you think this is wrong. I think subscribers are a bit of a vanity metric. They don't really show how relevant or how successful a channel is, because some 10 million subscriber channels are dead, but they were popular in 2008 or 2010.
No, you're completely right. I mean, there's some channels that have millions of followers that have hardly any views. You want views
right.
per month, views per week. That's where it's at.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would be great if you could have views, click-through rate, and watch time. But I mean, that's not publicly discussed.
Interesting. Welcome to the channel. So it's actually interesting. It's actually interesting that he joins because I literally just said, look at Ken G. He only has 4.4K here. This was back in 2019. So that would explain why you're so low down.
Yeah, on the list. And the caboose of the pack, Ken G is now on the channel on the live chat.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think subscribers are. Hunter, do you know what Hunter and Abe? Do you understand what we mean when we say it's a vanity metric?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really doesn't mean anything. Like you can have a lot of subscribers, but what is that generating? What is that giving you? Right.
So okay, so I think going forward with these challenges, maybe we should do let me. How about you send the data source to me, and then we'll talk. I can help kind of craft. Number one, what's the problem you're solving? And then number two, we can look at, are there enough dimensions and metrics? Luke, do you have any suggestions on where we might go about finding these data sets? Because I mean, it sounds like Kaggle, where Hunter's looking, is already a pretty ripe place to find them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like I'm a Python nerd, so I know that they have like, I know YouTube has some like APIs that you can actually go into and actually pull data. I mean, as far as like actually trying to find data, like a data source, you could probably try to Google around, try to find it. But I find if I ever want a data or some sort of data in a specific thing, it takes a little bit of skill level, but I use some sort of API to pull the data, such as like the YouTube API. I don't know if either of y'all have experience with that, but that's my first recommendation. And then from there, yeah, looking at data.
Okay. All right. So we'll shop around and see. I'll get in contact with this Code for Greenberg guy and see if we can get some of that civic data. But that would be a really interesting use case, but also with a veteran. I mean, it sounds like maybe we should just start compiling a list and then have people like within the Discord server start compiling a list of here are potential problems we could solve with data, and then have everyone, because I mean
people vote.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, some engagement right there.
Perfect.
But all right, cool. So you guys are about to hop over to the Discord server to work on that challenge. Luke, This has been fantastic. This has been a great first meeting. It's funny we just jumped on this call.
No, this has been a lot of different great conversations. It was, it's like a plethora, so much going on within this one video itself, and to see what Abe and Hunter are working on, being able to talk about certificates and analytics. So no, this has been a great little experience and fun little show.
Awesome. So where is the best place for people to connect with you?
The comment section in YouTube.
Okay.
Go there.
Boost the algorithm.
Yeah. Well, and I answer the comments there, and I don't like emails. I hate emails because I get emails for it all the time. But please just message me there.
Awesome. Well, Hunter and Abe, I appreciate you guys being good sports. And I mean, this was
I like your positive attitude of receiving feedback. That's the way to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How else am I supposed to get better? I mean,
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right. Well, it sounds like we've got Ken wants us to be a little bit more savage.
Not hard for me.
That's true. Okay. All right. Well, this was fun. Luke, I am interested in having you come in and be a guest lecturer next semester in my Greensboro College class. We can touch base on that off air. But good. I will see you guys. And also everybody who tuned in for the live chat, thank you so much for the comments. This was awesome.
Yeah. Hey, is it all right if I give a shout out for Ken G real quick? I think he has a live stream going on at 8 p.m. GMT. What is that? I don't know.
Okay.
So just a little Q&A session. I want to shout out for him since he dropped in.
Awesome. Sweet. All right. Well, I will talk to you guys later. See ya.
See ya.